It's finally time, everyone. I know this is what you've all really been waiting for. We've seen all of the elite specialization reveals for Visions of Eternity, so that means it's time for the best part. We are going to rate all of them on a tier list, because why not, okay? The devs have put hundreds, if not thousands of hours into developing these things. Let us go ahead and minimize all of their hard work and effort down into a single letter, because that's just what we do around here. Okay, anyway, let's get down to business. We have some strong specs here. I think some ones that need work, right? And we're going to see that reflected in these ratings. The way I'm going to rate this, by the way, is not balance, okay? We're going to be rating this based off roleplay and gameplay design, right? Because again, balance, who knows? It can go up, it can go down. We have no idea how good these are, and obviously they're going to get changed a lot. So these ratings are going to be entirely based on the design of the mechanics and the roleplay, and you know how good the theme is, in my opinion. So let's start with an uncontroversial one, I think. And this is, again, one of the more recent ones revealed. Amalgam. S tier. This is, in my opinion, the best one. I think it actually is the strongest elite spec in terms of design that we've seen so far. And it's a little bit hard to pick holes in this one. In fact, the only thing that I think they need to fix is they need to fix the crappy animation when you turn into a sludge, because it looks like this weird puddle that doesn't animate properly and just rotates in a weird way when you move around. That's pretty much the only negative thing I have to say about this. I think the trait design is excellent. All of the choices are meaningful and often have massive gameplay ramifications, whether that is being able to share your morph effects, whether that's splitting up the power of Evolve onto the morphs, which then interacts with the sharing as well, having a double charge of Evolve, like all this kind of crazy stuff, like making your Evolve reset your morphs. Everything about this is really cool with the trait design. The utility skill design is also really cool too. The class mechanic is excellent. Being able to pick additional utility skills is a really fun spin on the way that Engineer works with toolbelt abilities. Aesthetically, it's excellent. I love the role play. You know, from the moment Trig went live and said what was his first words? What were they? It's slime time. He just dropped that. He said it's slime time. It's time to ooze. And let me tell you this, guys. You either ooze or you lose. That's what I'm going to say, guys. You need to ooze big time on this. Amalgam, gameplay is really cool. I think it's going to work well in all game modes. I like that they didn't feel compelled to give it quickness or alacrity or make it a support. This is very much a damage dealer kind of brawlery thing, which I guess a lot of the NG Elite specs have turned out that way, like Hollow and Scrapper and now Amalgam, two very brawlery. Mech, I guess a little bit less so, obviously, but yeah. This one is really cool. I think it's fantastic. It's going to work well in every game mode, I think, which is always cool. And it introduces fun new mechanics like the barrier removal, I think is really excellent. It's like a completely new idea that's been brought to the table. Like sharing lifesteal with your team, sharing super speed, quickness, all that kind of good stuff, right? Animations are really cool, like, you know, prodding people with a Quicksilver spear and ooze spear, smashing people with a hammer, right, turning into a puddle, raising a slime shield to block stuff. Yeah, I really have nothing but praise, actually, for the Amalgam. The gameplay loop is fun. The trait design is good. The utility skill design is good. The roleplay is good. This is a S-tier elite spec, and you know, I will do a tier list that covers how I rate these relative to every elite spec in the game. We'll do like a full rating system for that too, but I would actually say it probably ends up looking S tier, even if you put it up against the best of the best in the game. So yeah, I don't think we need to ramble any longer about this. I think it's fantastic. Obviously, if you want to hear like really in-depth thoughts on these, go check out my deep dives. I've done a deep dive for every single one, kind of reviewing the footage from the stream, and obviously the information that we know, like about the traits and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to repeat all of that here, but in my opinion, very clear-cut S tier. If you're an engineer, or if you're just looking to maybe play engineer for the first time, or just looking for a new spec to play, Amalgam is well up there. It absolutely is. Okay, where are we going next? I don't want to do this in any particular order, right? I kind of want to almost bamboozle you guys. Let's do Paragon. Let's do Paragon next, because this one is really interesting to me. I think this is going in B tier for now. Why? Let's explain that. So, I really like the gameplay loop of Paragon. It's filling a role that Warrior hasn't had with the support, and I think it has the tools to do that, right? With the chance, that makes a lot of sense, and with the command abilities, those two tools give this build a function, and it's very clear where that's going to go. Now, I also really like the gameplay loop. I like the gameplay loop a lot. You know, you build up these chants, you maintain them, they give you pulsing effects, and you spam more burst skills to keep your motivation up to get stronger effects. The echoes like interact with chants and burst skills on the utility skills. I think that mechanic is excellent. So you can time your bursts to get a quick duplication or a quick bonus effect out of your echoes. I just think that the thing that's really holding this spec back is incredibly underwhelming trait design. Like, we cannot be having a trait in modern Guild Wars 2 that says when you swap to a new chant, you give alacrity. Like, that's just not good enough. It's not gameplay altering enough. If we compare that to the incredible design that we've seen from stuff like the Amalgam, where every trait is going to change your build in a significant way a lot of the time. And it's not just Amalgam either. We'll get to this later, obviously, but Ritualist, wow, incredible. Antiquary, huge, massive game-changing traits on the Antiquary. Same with the Conduit as well. Too, and Troubador as well. Like, yeah, some really impressive trait designs there. This is just not there. I think in general, the effects on a lot of these spells have actually been relatively conservative too. That's a little bit of a Warrior thing. People always say, oh yeah, but Warrior is a simple class. It's like, well, okay, I get it, but in modern Guild Wars 2, look, I logged onto my Tempest before this stream, and I pressed 3 abilities. I pressed all of my 3 utility skills. I had Feel the Burn, Aftershock, and Eye of the Storm. I pressed those 3 abilities, and it gave me 10 boons, or something ridiculous like that. That is the version of Guild Wars 2 that we're playing. So we need to just give this thing some more text on the tooltips, pretty much, and then we'll be in business. And I think it's going to work really well. So that's why I'm giving it a B tier. I actually feel very confident that this will be fixed. It feels very fixable to me. It doesn't feel like fundamentally problematic because the actual skeleton here, the core design, is excellent. The other thing that I would say is holding it back a little bit is actually that I think the RP is not quite intense enough. We have one big ability with the wings, but I think I want to see some more Paragon visual flair, I want to say. Like, the animations are a bit samey. You're just kind of yelling, and I get it, right? That is, you know, that is kind of, you know, what Paragon does, but I kind of want to see him go a little bit further, like more wings, more golden sparkles, I guess, for the Paragon. Like, really lean into that kind of angelic demeanor that the Paragon from Guild Wars 1 evokes. So I think it loses a couple of points there because, you know, again, comparing this to some of the roleplay on the other ones, it is a little bit lacking, I think. It's kind of relying maybe a little bit too heavily on the Guild Wars 1 nostalgia as of right now. But overall, in my opinion, very solid. Like, and I do want to once again highlight the gameplay loop, I think, is really good here. It's a really good, solid gameplay loop. In particular with that class mechanic. It's something that Warrior, I think, has really needed for a long time, is those extra buttons, the F2, F3, F4, and you combine that with the motivation mechanic, I think it's going to lead to a really exciting gameplay loop that Warriors are really going to love, right? You know, and you know, especially players who want to go into that kind of support position as well. I think it maybe won't end up as like a DPS build in PvE. It is going to live in that support role a lot. If you want to play a bit more of kind of like a brawlery thing, then I think PvP and World versus World where that has some potential. So that's maybe another downside there as well, is that it may not end up having like a super strong pure DPS spec, but obviously we'll have to see how that one goes because, yeah, it does appear to have a fairly well-defined role. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the Paragon overall. A lot of potential, I think, but the traits need a serious look and a serious power up because they are just simply not up to par with the design of some of the other elite specializations. Okay. Let's do Conduit. And I think Conduit is in a similar situation to Paragon right now. I think the roleplay is actually really cool. I think aesthetically it looks really interesting. And the trait design is good. And the utility skill design is really good. I think in particular, the kind of leap you can use 3 times, the port you can use 3 times, basically, that's a really exciting ability. I think the stun break that has the conditional energy cost, and otherwise you can use it for boons, you can use it as stun break, but it's going to cost you energy, is really exciting. I think the elite skill that interfaces with your other legend is really cool. And that theme in general, where your Raza entity utility skills depend on what legend you have, that's really cool. That's a fresh take on Rev, and I think that's actually really exciting. And even the Cosmic Wisdom mechanic, where you kind of get a super cool bonus, like a passive effect, when you charge up your affinity, basically, to that legend, and then you can unleash, is really cool. And I actually really do like the trait interactions, right? Like, you can have 5 affinity, your weapon skills give affinity, your Cosmic Wisdom becomes a toggle, a maintenance ability, as opposed to an active ability, right? Like, that's all really cool, I think, across the board. But here's the problem. I think the issue with this is that it needs an extra button. I don't think the class mechanic, the elite spec mechanic, is transformative enough on its own. It's a little too passive, in my opinion. You're not getting a cool super move that you can use. And yeah, you have the Scythe ability, but that's a utility skill. That's an elite skill. So that's not quite the same thing. So I think this needs an F3, I think. It needs one more button. A little bit like Ritualist, almost. Like Ritualist, which we'll get to in a moment. You summon your spits and you can blow them up. Like, it needs some kind of combo thing that you can interact with the mechanic of the Conduit in some way. Like, you can channel something and do a special move in some way that's kind of on the F bar as opposed to the utility bar or the weapon skill. And I think then it can actually really shine. But as of right now, this feels like it almost feels like a core trait line in a way. It feels like a core rev that just changes your F2. It's not impactful enough as of right now where it stands. But again, similar to Paragon, and this is going to be a bit of a theme in B tier, I think, is that I think it's kind of very fixable, right? Like, these are very, very fixable. They're not quite where I want them to be just yet, but we're fine. Like, we don't need like a major redesign. We just need a couple of things, and then we're going to be cooking with gas. So we're going to be super happy with the Conduit. I think there's a lot of potential here overall with that one. So yeah, I think that kind of expresses my thoughts on the Conduit. I guess I didn't talk about the RP that much, but I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. It's pretty good. Next. Oh, there's so many to choose from. Let's do the Troubador. Troubador is A tier. You know what's funny though? It's low A tier, actually. It's low A tier. Yeah, that might be a little bit controversial. I know everyone's hyped up to play Bard. We love it. And don't get me wrong, I respect that. I do think the roleplay is excellent. You know, playing on the flute, banging on the drum, right? Okay, playing the lute. And I love the crescendo. The crescendo is really exciting. Like, you know, you have these instruments playing and then you activate your crescendo and then they all pop off at the same time. Yeah, that is really cool. In my opinion, I also like the interaction between the utility skills and how if you have a particular instrument playing, then that utility skill is going to get a bonus, right? The elite skill is obviously pretty epic because you're giving AoE distort. What could possibly go wrong, right? We're getting this full support spec, but I think it will, you'll have a couple of like hybrid-oriented builds too in there. You've got a couple of damage traits in the mix there as well, thrown in alongside the supporty stuff. Like, this is a kind of a scary build. I think it has the potential to be very oppressive. We've got boon extension. We've got really strong healing capabilities. We've got baseline barrier. You combine this with rifle, and my goodness me, like, this is going to be a monster. This is going to be such a monstrous build, I think, in terms of supports. In all of the game modes, it just has a very good baseline kit that looks fun. It looks fun. I like that we've gone away from clones similar to Virtuoso, because that is something that particularly in world versus world. Like, it's kind of felt very weird for support Mesmers in those game modes, in competitive game modes, because that's where the clones don't really gel with the support gameplay that much whatsoever. So I think this is a good design direction to go there. The reason why this isn't S tier is because I'm not that excited by the actual mechanic, the musical instruments, because they're just playing in the background. They're not doing anything, right? You're basically using them as a combo piece to set up for crescendo, right? There's almost like not quite enough on the actual instrument itself. Like, they're more of a combo piece that you use with your utility skills or your crescendo, and that's not bad. I don't have a huge problem with that, but I think it would be kind of cool if the instruments were actually doing something, you could, if there was something going on while they were playing in the background. I imagine they didn't want to make it a little bit too much like Herald, because Herald is kind of like that, with just like some kind of pulsing effect or baseline effect there as well. So maybe there's something that could go on there, maybe with a trait interaction or something like that. But yeah, that would be like the only thing about the design, is that I don't find it super exciting, but I think the gameplay will be fun, and it will also be extremely powerful. And of course, the roleplay is excellent, right? Like, the roleplay is really good, I think that everyone loves a kind of bard-style spec in your RPG, so I think it's really good that it's been added here. I think it's visually very impressive as well. Like, all the instruments look really cool. The crescendo animation looks really cool too. And look, the spec icon even makes sense. It's a win-win right there. So yeah, I give Troubador a very solid A tier. If you are just kind of like someone who likes the Bard RP, or someone who wants to play a support build, then this is just a very obvious massive win for anyone who's looking for that type of playstyle. 100%. Looks like it's going to be a whole lot of fun, and also incredibly powerful at the same time. Next up, okay. I'm sorry. I have to do it. I have to do it. People are not going to like this. And you know what? I like that people aren't going to like this. Cry harder. Antiquary is S tier. The script is hot. Rat jam. Ratga clap. I'm sorry. This spec is hilarious. The RP is extremely funny. You have script party elite skill, script snatch, pilfer, script with rocket launcher. You've got Canuck flip coin thing. You have random crazy abilities like an electric guitar, or like a exalted thing, a script holding up a fish, giving you a shield. This is amazing. This is hilarious. I was actually initially very worried about the RNG on this spec and how that was going to be designed, but I was actually really impressed with how ArenaNet handled this, with the adept traits giving you ways to mitigate that RNG, either by giving you 1 offensive, 1 defensive, 3 pilfer skills, right? Or allowing you to reroll with a new skill. You get like an extra ability that allows you to reroll for initiative. Wow. I actually think the traits on Antiquary are the best in the game. But maybe even by far. I think every single trait changes the way you think about your class. That is remarkable. That is exactly how it should be, by the way. Every single one. The only exception, and arguable exception, because that's not necessarily true, because it does give you a proper gameplay loop, would be the 2 DPS ones, right? The Master and GM pure DPS traits. They are not giga exciting, because they're just, you do big DPS. But even those, they do give you something to play around. They do give you a mechanic, especially the Grandmaster, which is basically like a very burst-oriented spec, because it gives you like a massive damage buff that falls off. And then all the other ones are just Omega, right? The icons are really cool. The effects are really cool. The way they handle the double edge, like recharge guarantee or like backfire, I think is really interesting. I was worried that it was going to be really punishing, but it's more like you can actually play around it and mitigate it, either with the trait that means it doesn't backfire, or with the fact that the backfires have a downside that you can think about, like using stability to counter the knockback on the teleport, or moving out of the script, or just not pressing the bomb. on the elite skill. The only one that feels really brutal is the Canuck one. If you corrupt your own boons, that's pretty rough, to be honest. But other than that, I think the trait design, the utility skill design is excellent. The profession design mechanic is also excellent. Again, they didn't really feel the need to put quickness or a lack on it. They've said that they might think about that. I actually kind of hope that they don't, because I like the design as it is. I guess maybe they could just like slap it on if they really wanted to, but I don't think it really needs it. I think it's going to be super exciting in PvP as more of a kind of bruisery build. That's also something that's kind of cool, by the way, with the Grandmaster trait, the one that gives you barrier and then either resistance or stability, is it kind of gives Thief a different approach to PvP, I think. It's going to be able to hold its own a bit more, I think. Sustain itself with barrier, give itself some defensive boons, and then really use those artifacts to kind of turn the tide of battle, actually. So yeah, really cool. You know, I get it. People do not like the RP here, and that is fair. I want to be clear that that's fair. But what I would ask people who don't like the RP here to consider is that if this was actually ninja and it was like you were pulling out random ninja equipment, right, and then like using it in some way, everyone would think this is the best thing ever. Okay, I'm just saying, if it wasn't script themed and a bit of a meme spec, everybody would think this is like the coolest shit ever. And I'm not saying that that justifies it. I'm just saying that you can say that you don't like the RP, but acknowledge that the mechanical design is actually very robust and really exciting. Yeah, there you go. That is what I have to say about the Antiquary. Yes, embrace the Antiquary. And yeah, big shout out to, what is it, Prodigious Pincher, I think, the Grandmaster one. It has a really cool icon with the script face. And I just love the gameplay loop of kind of like spending your relics to refund your initiative, and then reach it. You get like another free pilfer off that. Wow, really cool. I think that type of gameplay design, again, that type of trait design, especially on the Grandmasters, is just excellent. It is really, really good. Shout out to the rat. And by the way, I'm not even being bribed here. Do you know why I'm not being bribed? I did 20 ecto gambles with the Scrit, and the Scrit robbed me blind. I'm not even joking, guys. Like, I won big on the Sandstorm ecto gamble, and the Scrit just demolished me, just humiliated me pretty much, and took all my gold. So look, I don't have to tell you, I'm not biased. Okay. Next. Evoker. I kind of ummed and ahed about this one, but man, I was surprised. I hate to say it, it's C tier. This is the first C tier spec. Yeah. Let's talk about it. So, the reason I have this here is actually a boring one. I think the mechanic is problematic, to be honest. I don't think it's there yet. To be honest, I actually love the RP. I think it's excellent. I love the spirit toad, obviously, you know, the fox, the hare, the otter. I love that. And I actually love the abilities they have too. They're really cool. The frog belly slamming, the fox sharing, you know, doing epidemic for burning, right? Like the hare zapping in and going crazy. And the otter like splashing you with a water glob. Yeah, I love that. The abilities look really cool. Visually, I think the spec is very interesting. But mechanically, I think it's too restrictive. And this is a reason why it's in C tier. I think it is hard. It's non-trivial to fix this, or the problems the spec has, in my opinion. Because right now, I don't see how this build works or ends up playing out. I think that the other kind of thing that it brings to the table, because you have like the little elemental familiar attached to this, but the other part of it is amazing. The fact that you specialize in an element and you basically have instant attunement recharge, that is so cool. I love that. The fact you can basically pick fresh air for any element. You can be fresh mud, fresh water, fresh drizzle, right? Okay, fresh fire. Wow, really cool. Incredible mechanic, but the fact that that's coupled together with the F5, with this really important ability that is distinguishing you from a core ally, oof, it is very restrictive. And then you couple that with the traits that are also very undercooked and pretty underupped and also very spread out. We've got 4 dedicated to each, you know, 1 for each of the familiars. And again, that means that you're guaranteed to almost like have a trait that you're not really going to want to go for because you can only pick 1 out of the 4 familiars, and the 4 traits are spread out among adept and master, right? So it's going to be like super weird with that. I think the design space is cramped by that big time. Then you've got 2 basically super boring dead traits in the middle there as well, with like the burning and regen on heal skill. And then you've got like the damage reduction and damage increase one there as well. That's like very, very boring. And look, I get it. It's a fun meme, but 1 Grandmaster essentially being like semi-meme tier is not ideal. There's some speculation if they could give weapon swap to Ellie in exchange for that. That would actually be really cool, but potentially actually hard to balance, by the way. That's like that's kind of a scary thing to do, I think, but maybe they have to go that way. And yeah, the other GMs, they're just not it. Like, they don't really change the gameplay that much fundamentally, and one of them is just like, oh yeah, you give 2 stacks of might when you use your Firefox ability and you cleanse 2 Conduits. It's funny there, like the cleansing 2 Conduits is like actually not bad, but the boon output is just mediocre on this build. I was hyped to have like another way to play a support Ellie, but like, I don't know about that. Like, the utility skills are whack. They're super off in my opinion. One of them like cleanses 10 Conduits in an AoE. Another one just gives like a little bit of burning might and fury. The Toad stun break is alright, I guess. And like the hair dash is pretty nice. I love the elite, to be fair, like summoning all of them to use their Omega moves. That's actually really cool. It feels exactly what an elite skill should be like, but oof. I think this one really, really needs some work. I don't know what it's going to look like. Maybe you can use 2 familiars as opposed to just 1. That would be a potential. So you can basically pick 2. That would work. Maybe some utility skill that allows you to temporarily use one of them to give you a bit more flexibility and versatility. I don't know. But yeah, I think this one, Evoker, is maybe the spec that... There's one other spec that I think needs pretty significant changes, even on a mechanical and class mechanic level. You can probably guess which one it is, looking at the ones that are remaining. But yeah, Evoker is definitely one of them. I'm not, you know, I'm not like, you know, decoked on this. I think that it's going to be cool. I trust ArenaNet to fix it, by the way. I'm not going to go Doom or anything like that. I think they can fix it. I think they will fix it. But yeah, this one needs some work, in my opinion. The versatility, the trait design, the utility skill design, all need a fair bit of help. The core mechanic, though, I think is solid, though. Charging up your pet, and then you get a Giga move after you've used it 3 times. That's actually really cool. I love how the little pets work. I think it's fantastic. I like that it's not a pet. It's more like a summoner style thing, like a familiar that follows you around. That, to me, is really cool, and less frustrating than a pet mechanically. I'm not really a pet class enjoyer, to be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, there's major design work needed here, in my opinion. I think. Let's do the other one that I think needs a lot of work, shall we? Yeah. Oh, Luminary. Ooh. Ah, yeah, the C tier. Oh, where do we begin? This is tough. I think the main issue is kind of the trait design. The trait design again is just not where it needs to be. There's some cool ideas. I actually love the idea of having a bunch of traits that interact with light aura, detonating light aura, building up light aura, making light aura heal, maybe even give boons, right? That is really cool. I like that, you know, very reminiscent of, you know, aura share on Ellie or fire aura interactions on Berserker. Big fan of how that one's going. But oh man, some of these traits, they're just not exciting enough, you know? They really just don't warp the gameplay and change the profession mechanic nearly enough, in my opinion, compared to some of the other offerings that we've got here. And it's important that they do, by the way. It's important that all these traits are important, because we're not getting a new weapon, so you want the traits, you want these specs to be heavy hitters, I think, which is, I think, part of the motivation why some of these specs are such heavy hitters, is because of that. But yeah, this one needs big time work. And on the mechanics itself, I was really surprised when we saw the Radiant Shroud, because I was not expecting it to also have the virtues, right? I was expecting them to have designed interactions with virtues with the weapons themselves. And yeah, I was kind of surprised when that was not the case at all on this. Does it need its own virtues? Maybe. Does it need just another button instead replacing those virtues? Also maybe. I don't know. Like, this one feels a little bit confused. Like, I don't like to say this sort of thing because I think it's never correct, by the way, to say this. But it almost does feel like they were like, oh, how are we going to make this work with the virtues and radiance trait lines? Ah, fuck it. Just give it the regular virtues as well. And it feels like they're like, oh, I don't think the radiant shroud mechanic is enough. It's like, it's not enough on its own to give this class the power and the effects that we want. So just give it the regular virtues too. And I don't know, that just, like, that's not where you want to be, right? You do not want to be thinking like, oh yeah, our mechanic that we're doing here isn't enough. We need to give it the core spec as well. Like, no. Like, you want the elite spec to be really putting in the work and having its time to shine, right? So I think it needs to be juiced up in a pretty big way. This is the one that I think maybe I'm the most lost on. I'm not sure how this is going to go and what this is going to end up looking like. I had to really sit down and scratch my head and think about this one. The most obvious one is like just give it its own virtues, and that maybe would help. And maybe there's some interactivity. Maybe you can use the virtues inside of Shroud and it will like empower an ability in a certain way and give it like a bonus effect depending on what virtue you use or something like that. Maybe the virtues could be linked to the weapons, which they kind of are, right, with the Grandmaster trait. But I don't know, like it's a tough one. This one is a tough one, I think. I think there also is a really weird one that I feel like I have to bring up. Is like, why does this spec have no burning? And also, why is its icon a shield? Like, what is going on here? Because its entire RP is that you're, like, carrying around a torch of ghostly flame. And there's no burning on the spec at all. I know that's, like, a meme RP thing to complain about, but isn't that kind of weird? Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think every spec needs to be a Conduit spec and every spec needs to have a power build, but it just feels really strange to me that we're kind of going in this holy fire direction, light aura, like blazing, the blazing brazier following you around, the radiant shroud, and then it's got no burning on. Like, what is going? We're super weird, I think, with the way Luminary is. I don't know. There are some things I do like about it. I like the damage reduction. I like the Blessing of Sacrifice style effect on the staff in the Shroud, where you can kind of take damage for your allies. That's really cool. I would say that some of the weirdness is probably down to this spec being very PvP coded, in my opinion. The moment I saw this, I was like, ooh, this is a PvP spec. This is basically Core Guard Plus for PvP. This is maybe something that you could play in World versus World. It's got resistance. It has damage reduction. It has damage. It has additional stability that it can apply. That's obviously going to work out really well in those types of environments, right? Like, it's got some tools that I think can be potent, can be effective in those game modes. A little bit more confusing in PvE, I think. We'll have to see how that one ends up kind of working out. It's got some really stiff competition, though, obviously, on the support area with Firebrand. And, of course, there's loads of DPS options for Guardian as well. So it's tough, I think. Needs a lot more. Needs a lot more work. I think it's the one that needs the most looking at. Evoker's not far behind, though. I think both of these are, I want to say, in a similar position, actually, in terms of needing some, I think, significant mechanical changes to kind of get them into the right spot where they need to be. So yeah, that's what I would say about the Luminary overall. Yeah, I already talked about trade design. The trade design is goddamn cooked, okay? Also, they did the thing where you can't have, like, the healing light aura thing and Alacrity at the same time. Oof. There's a Tempest moment again. You hate to see that. Okay, next. Ritualist. A-tier. It's A-tier. It's A-tier. It's very good. I think it's better than Troubador. It's better than Troubador. I don't think it's quite on the level of design as Amalgam and Antiquary, but it is actually an A tier, in my opinion. I'm not sure how I feel about the detonate skills. That would be like the thing that I would say here, actually, would be like the #1 thing. I was kind of expecting it to just have a shroud replacement and not have the detonate abilities. I'm not sure if it needs that. Or I'm not sure if no, it does need that actually, because a lot of the power is in those, so they shouldn't take them away. But I almost would have preferred if it had gone a different direction there as well. I'm not sure I really wanted those extra buttons. You know, look, it's too hard, guys. Like, I can't press the F skills. It's like I play Reaper. You know, I play Scourge. The game's too difficult for me, like already as it stands. But yeah, it would have been cool if there was a bit more of like a spirit focus, maybe summoning more spirits, but you know, you still get 3 spirits you can summon. And I think the overall gameplay loop is actually really cool. RP is excellent on this one, I think. I think it looks amazing. I love all the icons for the spirit, the weapon skills that you have. The weapon skills all have really interesting effects. Like you've got Nightmare weapon with lifesteal. You've got a Zinray's weapon, which I actually think needs a couple of lyrics, maybe more on that later, but the weapon of warding, sharing the blocks out, damage reduction on the heal skill that you can share out. Really exciting. I think that's really cool. The spirits all have interesting effects. They have like multi-layered combos. They do an initial attack, then they do their auto attack. They follow you around when you use the port ability. And then you can detonate them for an extra special effect there too. I think it's got some cool counterplay in it as well. You know, like people can push you out of Ritualist Shroud and your spirits will all go up in a puff of smoke. That's pretty decent as well, in my opinion. A very different heal build as well to Scourge. Like obviously, you know, going for a support direction, you don't want to make it overlap with the Scourge too much. This I think doesn't, because it doesn't really lean into barrier. It's more all about healing and boon uptime and then unique modifiers with your weapon skills. So I think that's good. They don't tread on each other's toes. In fact, I think they might end up having synergy with each other even, because of course this build gives quickness and Scourge gives alacrity, so you can do some crazy quadruple necro support combos, I think, that are going to be really, really wacky. So it's going to fit well in. And I actually do like that they're adding more heal quickness options, because like heal quickness builds are not that good a lot of the time, and I think this can actually be pretty strong. They do need to kind of do the opposite too and add like really strong alacrity DPS options, because that's honestly the real thing that defines the meta, is how strong quickness DPS is as opposed to alac DPS. But well, look, blah 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 blah. Yeah, we've got Splinter weapon, we've got some cool stuff here. The spirits look cool. I think the gameplay loop overall is going to be really exciting. You're going to be summoning spirits, detonating spirits, staying in Shroud. You've got the fun minion synergy in there as well, and that could honestly lead to some interesting builds, like where like minions are actually good because you want to stay in Shroud as often as long as possible so that your spirits are up, right? Because you know, when you summon something, you're going to gain life force. When you summon spirits within your Shroud, you're going to gain life force, so you can fuel your Shroud and just keep summoning more spirits and getting the DPS. The trait design is amazing on Ritualist. It is so cool. The only gripe I have is the quickness application feels really bad, actually. But I'll talk about the other trait design first. You can do stuff like soul twisting, where you can double summon a spirit. So you can summon it, detonate it, then summon it again. You can share your weapon skills at 100% effectiveness, which is amazing. So you can give all of the blocks 3 blocks that aren't Aegis to nearby allies. You can share 2 stacks of Zinray's weapon to everyone. You can share the full duration of your heal skill damage reduction, which gets even better when people are low, right? You can share full Nightmare weapon stacks, which by the way is going to be so disgusting. If you share, because basically it's like a venom that does lifesteal. So if you have like 3 people with that venom, you all blast 1 target. It's going to be insane. Really cool. All the design is excellent. You can make your spirits follow you whenever they do an attack. I mean, honestly, the list goes on and on and on. I really like the trait design on this one. We could talk about it for days, but we haven't got days. We've got to actually get through this. We've got to get through the tier list, guys. We've got to make it. We've got to get all the way through with this stuff. Yeah, I guess the only gripe I would have is the quickness application feels pretty bad because when you give quickness, it's when you summon a spirit, and that to me sucks, because your spirits, especially if you're playing healer, you want to use them reactively. Like one is like a big AoE heal and Conduit cleanse and then apply some boons. And being forced to use that reactively sucks. or sorry, not reactively or rotationally, sucks. I don't like that type of ability that kind of forces you to use your utility abilities on a rotation to apply boons. That is omega unfun gameplay in my opinion, so it loses a point there. I'd like to see the quickness application changed. Like, this would be really dumb, but almost if it was like, when your spirits attack, they give quickness. That will be a way to do it. That would maybe be too Papega almost, but who knows? I'd like to see that changed. Boon application arguably could be made a little bit better for certain things, but it does piggyback off transfusion extremely well. So that might be less of an issue when we actually get our hands on this and see how that goes. I also really like that it's kind of like a power DPS build too. That's super cool for Necro. It's going to be like it won't be a full ranged power DPS build. It's going to be a hybrid, right? So you'll usually play melee weapons on Power Necro. So, you know, you're going to be playing stuff like spear, greatsword, all that stuff. But you're going to have this range component, like your spirits will be blasting the entire time. So you're going to have a bit of a range component to it as well. I think that's actually a relatively healthy design too. Making a full range DPS, well, look, we've seen how that one goes, haven't we, with Virtuoso. It can get a little bit toxic sometimes. So I think just having a range component to it, I think is also really cool. Oh yeah, the other Grandmaster trait is super fun too, where you can keep your spirits up outside of Shroud as well by, you know, building up loads of Shroud. And then unleashing your spirits, and your Shroud like slowly drains after that. That's really fun. Again, completely changes the gameplay. Ah, man. We love to see that. We love to see Ritualist in the game. Do I have anything else to say about Ritualist? I don't think so. Thematically, it's really cool. Visually, it's really cool. Utility design skill is solid. Oh, well, I'm going to rant about the Elite a bit. Yeah, utility skill design is overall cool. Profession mechanic is cool. Not quite what I was expecting, but I can get behind it. I can get behind it, guys. We absolutely can. Yeah, elite skill. I'm going to complain about Zinray's weapon. Like, they were too scared to give us the, you can only take 5% of your health in one hit. And I understand that. That makes sense. But they basically made bad rebound. And you know what? Listen, guys, okay? We've added AoE Distort Share to the game. We've added you can't die into the game with Paragon, okay? Are we really giving Ritualist bad rebound? Are we serious on this, guys? And yeah, it's 2 charges of bad rebound, but it's still bad rebound, okay? No! We need to give it something better than this. I would be really interested to see a rework on this. I would love to, because right now it's a fairly long cooldown ability that basically says when you take damage, you take the damage and then heal all of it back except 5% of your max HP and then steal life from the enemy. Now, that is not a bad effect, but here's the catch. If you die from the initial hit, this doesn't go off. That's why I'm calling it bad rebound. So let's say you've got 10,000 health and you take an 11,000 hit. This elite skill does literally nothing. It will not save you from that in any way. It also has a big chance to get wasted, unlike Rebound. Like, Rebound can't get wasted. Like, you either die or you don't, and then if you do die, it will bring you back. This could get wasted on, like, a completely useless ability that you don't care about. You could already be at full HP even, potentially, although, to be fair, if you're using this at full HP, that's maybe not the way. So I think this elite skill, I would actually give it a look. I would give it a look at, actually. I think my idea would be to make it a short cooldown elite. Maybe even with charges. So maybe like a 20-second cooldown, and it has an effect kind of similar to how it is right now. So it's something that you would equip and you would use quite frequently, as opposed to like a power move elite. Because the thing is, right, is that they tried to make it really potent, and you can see this because they just added random shit onto the tooltip. They basically said, it gives you this lifesteal effect. And it's an AoE stun break too, right? And it gives stability. Well, yeah, we've tried to like tack a bunch of stuff on to make it strong. I get that. But to be honest, I would really like to see them focus on the Zinray's weapon RP from Guild Wars 1, cut the stun break, cut the stability, and focus on that. If you take a big hit, it helps you mitigate that big hit. And I think then you've got a really cool elite skill. Maybe, again, make it so that, yeah, if you get one shot, it doesn't do anything, but have it on a shorter cooldown so you can use it to kind of smooth out damage or maybe absorb an attack to reduce someone's incoming damage. I think that's the direction I'd like to see that elite skill go, because I do think that type of effect is just... Look, they're really going big on the nostalgia, right, from Guild Wars 1 and, like, the Guild Wars 1 RP. That type of effect, like Protective Spirit, Shelter, Zinray's Weapon, all that kind of stuff, right? It's so iconic. So I would love to see them maybe push a little bit more on that, push the limits of how strong an effect like that can actually be. And lean into that rather than like where, because like right now the elite skill feels confused to me. It's actually one of the least interesting or least impressive elite skills, I think, out of all of these elite specs, which I actually think is a shame because I think they've done a really good job with a lot of the elite skills. But again, look, that is a minor gripe, right? Like, I think I'm nitpicking here a little bit because I think the rest of the spec and actually the utility skills are really cool, and I do love the artwork on the utility skills in particular. They look fantastic. That's kind of a minor thing. That's a minor anti-nitpick, I guess, but yeah, that's where I'm at on that one. Okay. Let's see. We've got one more, haven't we? Ooh, Galeshot. Galeshot, Galeshot, Galeshot. Oh. It's the top of A tier. I think it's the top of A tier. Don't think it's S tier. I think it's not on the level of the Amalgam, the Ooze, or the Antiquary. But I do really like it. I think the gameplay loop is excellent. So you have your feathers that you can spend, and then you build up your wind force to get access to your Hawkeye. You can use your Cyclone Bow at any time, and I think this is going to be really exciting, especially in PvP, because that means you can very easily have 2 melee weapons, right? I'm kind of anticipating this build ends up like a Giga skirmisher, right? So maybe with hammer, right? With greatsword, with sword, right? Like leaping around, super mobile, comboing with that baseline increased movement speed you get from the minor traits, right? With the leaping around and the powerful mobility of Ranger with a lot of Ranger's utility skills, the super speed application. I think it's going to be a really exciting spec, particularly in PvP. To us, but also I think it will end up being fun rotationally in PvE as well. So yeah, I think the gameplay loop is excellent. In fact, I want to say the gameplay loop might even be the most refined out of any elite spec. I want to say that. I think it is. Well, yeah. It's up there. It's definitely up there. I think it's going to be really exciting. Like if you enjoy kind of combos, movement, mobility, you're not going to find much better than the Galeshot. And I do like the design, like the builder-spender design that they've got going on there as well. Traits, I think, are also pretty damn solid overall. I wouldn't say the most exciting things ever, right? Not the sickest traits, and I think that's actually where it does kind of lose some points for me, actually, is the trait. I just love the traits of Amalgam and Antiquary in particular, but also Ritualist. Like if I had to pick standout traits, if I was doing this based on traits, it would be like this. I think these 3 have the most exciting build design like that, but I think Rit doesn't quite excite me as much as these 2 do for that. Yeah, whereas the Galeshot is a lot more, I think focus, that just got said in the chat is the word for it. And that's okay, right? That, again, that's why it's an A tier. I think it's very solid, very strong. I don't look at the traits and go, oh, wow, that sucks, right? Oh, wow, that's super boring. I think they're all pretty cool, right? Like, they're all pretty interesting. Like, the Grandmasters, again, you kind of get a, You get like the interaction where you can like reset the cooldown on Bluster, right? And you have like a completely different approach to playing the spec there. I think that Grandmaster is really good. I think that, you know, you can replace your Immobilize with something that does a bit more damage. Again, that's very PvE coded, I think, right? And you have this kind of crazy loop. You're going to combo those two traits, like the Master and the GM together, where you're going to be spamming out all these different abilities and comboing them to get to your Hawkeye there. I really like that you have like a path to navigate through your Cyclone Bow with a grand finale of the Hawkeye, and that's going to be cool in PvE because you're going to be weaving in the Cyclone Bow with your other weapon skills, right? And like weapon swapping as well and kind of going berserk. All that stuff too is really good. I will say quickness is entirely slapped onto this. That also needs a little bit of work in my opinion, because it literally only gives quickness, and in Modern Guild Wars 2, that's not good enough. If you want to give a boon, you have to, at the very least, give Might and Fury. Easy to fix, obviously, so they can just like slap that on there without too much of an issue, I think, at least in PvE. So that needs a little bit of work. Utility skills are also really cool. The really big standout, I think, is the super mobility skill, like leaping around all over the place. And also, I really like the idea of like putting down your ice wall and then people firing projectiles through it, like does more damage. The elite skill is pretty cool as well. Sending out the tornado. You've got all these like wind-themed abilities attached to the Galeshot. So yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I don't have that much to say about the Galeshot, to be honest. I think roleplay-wise, it's very, very solid as well. People love that Tengu roleplay. I like the wind theme as well. That's very exciting. You know, I think all the abilities look really cool. They have cool projectile animations. They have cool names, right? All that kind of stuff. Yeah, you know, it's pretty good. You know, like we got some references in there that, you know, they call the trait the joy of movement. You know, that's pretty big. You're a bird wizard. You have a trait that makes it so your bird pets do giga DPS and give quickness. I mean, it's a good time, guys. You know, it really is a good time, I guess, with the Galeshot. I think it will end up being very good. I'm very interested to see like how it will turn out, obviously, and what builds people are going to cook up. I think especially in PvP, but the other game modes as well. And yeah, I guess that is my tier list, right? There you go. So in the S tier, the best of the best in this stacks up against the best elite specs in Guild Wars 2. It is Amalgam and Antiquary, both beginning with A. That's kind of interesting. In A tier, the top, and this is in order. Yeah, this is in order. Best A tier is Galeshot, just very solid all around, excellent roleplay, most developed gameplay loop that makes a huge amount of sense. Ritualist as well in A tier. Kind of similar there as well. I really like how this one looks. I think the skills are all really exciting. And the RP is good. The visuals are really cool as well. I like how the spirits look. I like how the spirit with this, maybe the weapon skills could use a bit more animation, but listen, okay, you can't have everything. Troubador, A tier, again, very respectable spec. Towards the lower end, to be honest. I like Galeshot and Ritualist a fair bit more than Troubador. I'll definitely admit that. Okay, I absolutely will. But overall, just super strong. Looks like a fun gameplay loop. Cool combos with the utility skills and the crescendo as well. And it's even getting chrono nerfed as well, just by existing. Shout out to Troubador. For those who don't know, they're moving the the stability from Bountiful Disillusionment onto F5 purely to make this spec good. That is just based. Love to see that. Oh, I forgot to complain about this, actually. One thing that I don't like about this is that the alacrity is attached to your main heal. And that means you're going to end up using that rotationally. And it's also your distort as well. That feels weird as hell. Because think about that. Because you have inspiration, that means your alacrity is attached to your main heal profession mechanic and Aegis, because you do Aegis share on distort. So I want to see an alacrity redesign on this because that is weird as hell. I don't like that. But anyway, there you go. Little bonus criticism on the Troubador there. In B tier, we have Paragon and Conduit. I feel like these are actually pretty even in my mind. I think I would give the edge to Paragon, actually, because I think I really like the gameplay loop with the chance and motivation. That's a good mechanic, in my opinion. It's going to be fun. And I also think the chants are cool and strong and powerful. And I also really like the interaction that chants and burst skills in general have with commands. All that needs more fleshing out. The traits need more fleshing out. The commands need more fleshing out. 100%. But I think the gameplay loop is really good. Mechanically, it's very good. Very, very good overall. So that is exciting. Can't wait to see how they're going to improve it. Conduit, again, kind of talked about this. It just needs an extra button. Seriously, that's it. I don't have any, like, glaring, super huge complaints about the Conduit. It just needs an extra skill, I think. A bit too passive. Not enough of a game changer, I think, with the elite specialization. I do really like that it has this fresh twist on Rev that gives you different bonuses depending on what legends you slot. So you have that interactivity between the elite spec and what legends you have and your utility skills. That's really cool and a nice fresh idea being brought to the table. So big fan of that. But yeah, just needs an extra button. That's all I've got to say about that one, really. Good RP as well. Not too bad. Evoker, yeah, and now we get to the C tier. This is where, I think we need, these are the only two that I think need a fair bit of change. And it's complex to fix. Like, B tier, easy to fix, like, not hard. I think I feel very confident that the ones in B tier are going to end up good. C tier, though, is a challenge, I think. Doable, obviously. I think that there's some very solid things about both of these specs. You know, I like the, particularly with the Evoker, I really like the RP, and I think the Luminary, kind of like Hollow Forge, Radiant Shroud, is also cool, and I like some of the abilities that they have there. I think they're actually pretty exciting. They're pretty hyped, all the different skills. I like how you have 2 abilities per slot that, you know, flip over and you can combo them together. And, you know, if you can just use a couple, then you'll have a lower cooldown on your Shroud. You can go back in really quick and use another one, right? Or use all of them, right? And then you'll have a longer cooldown. There's some fun design there, I think, and some interesting possibilities, especially in PvP. But yeah, the trait design, man. The trait design, and what are those core virtue? What are those? What are they doing there, man? I don't know. And yeah, Evoker just feels very restrictive. Again, the fresh fire attunement cooldown reduction, super cool, really exciting gameplay in that regard, but the other mechanic just feels a bit too restrictive. Maybe we need 2 familiars, maybe we need some way to activate one of your choice with a utility skill or another mechanic or a trait or something. I don't know. Needs some pretty big work on the traits there as well, and the utility skills. It's the goddamn curse of Ellie, man. Ellie is never allowed to have good utility skills. Ever. Literally ever. But yeah. That is the tier list. I have given my opinion, and my opinion is objectively correct. Anyone who disagrees with this tier list is just wrong and has no taste whatsoever. But obviously I'm joking. I am super curious, guys. I want to know what everyone thinks, okay? Don't take this too seriously. Like, I'm already scared of the comments. Guys, please, not in the face. I want to know what everyone thinks about these. I will link the tier list maker, or you could just type it out if you wanted to. You could type out your comment on YouTube about where you think they are, right? Do you agree with my tier list? Do you think I'm completely insane? Okay, you guys like that Antiquary rating? Oh yeah, I know you enjoy it. Okay, it's gonna be good. But yeah, let me know what you think about this stuff. Like, how would you, and for some of the issues too, like, what are some things that you like about these specs? How would you fix some of the problems? Do you have like a cool idea for maybe some of the issues with any of the elite specs? Not just the ones that are in B or C tier, but do you have like a kind of a pet peeve about some of the ones in S tier or A tier? Let me know. I'm really curious. Let's get a good discussion going about this stuff. Make your own tier lists. Have some fun with it. And stay tuned for more, because I will do a full tier list rating these versus the other elite specializations in the game. And, well, I guess we might as well just rate every other elite specialization in the game while we're at it too. So stay tuned for more tier list content. I know you guys love that. It is the apex slop. Like, we have been climbing the mountain of slop recently with like 50-minute deep dives on a live stream, okay? And we have reached the pinnacle. the apex. And that is where the realm of the tier list is, guys. And oh boy, do we love to see that. So yeah, that is gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have some fun talking it. Have some fun trash talking my tier list. Have some fun trash talking each other's tier lists in the YouTube comments. Okay, be sure to follow for more content. Subscribe, like the video, follow my stream. Watch on YouTube. How many we got on YouTube right now? Whoa! 579 people watching on YouTube right now. That is big. And over 900 on Twitch. I mean, look, you know, the people have spoken. They want more tier list content, I guess. But that is how it is. But yep, that's it. That's all I've got. And of course, if you're hyped for these elite specs, you guys know what to do. Referral link for Guild Wars 2 Visions of Eternity. It is pinned. It is in the description. It is everywhere. Exclamation mark GW2 in the chat if you're on Twitch. Hammer that link and buy the Ultimate Edition. Log in. Let's go. It supports the stream, and look, if you guys do it, you get more tier lists, okay? You should view it as, like, the tier list link, yeah? Yeah, all right. Okay, that'll do it. Engage with all the social media. Do the algorithm stuff. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Take it easy.